Hi everyone, and welcome to this video on how to ruin communication. I know I've ruined communication in the past. I'm sure JP has once or twice.
Yeah, it's almost enough to fill one hand.
Yeah, so we've all ruined communication before. I can't even say communication now, so look how badly I'm doing it. We're going to go through some examples of how to ruin communication so that you are even more aware when you are doing it. So this one should be fun, shouldn't it, JP?
I've been looking forward to this all day, brother.
So how do we ruin communication?
Yeah. Some ruin your communication principles, or just rattle them off and we can dive in or not deeper to each one. One is project blindly. Tell a person what's true, and we kind of essentially say my truth is the truth. So blind projection, blaming other people. Oh, that's a good one. And then something my girlfriend and I have learned from our relationship coach, Glenn Cohen. I love these next three AEOs: agendas, expectation, and obligations. Those are definitely lethal communication ruining deals.
So let's dive into the first one, which I think is the agendas, which goes in tangent with this having your reality and putting it on someone else. I mean, that can really destroy someone when we think there is only one reality and then we push it on someone else. Why is that so sabotaging?
Yeah, communication, obviously it's about connecting. And when we just blindly push our reality on someone, this is the way it is. And the more you try and get your voice to be heard, to represent the way it is for you, the more I try and smash that down. No, this is the way it is. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm violating you. Well, it's not a physical violent violation. It's a psychological violation. You have your feelings, how you feel about how it is, whatever the it is we're talking about. And you have your thoughts and your values about what is. You have this beautiful gift, the miracle of your life generates, called your perception. And if I'm not honoring that, I'm violating that. Nope, that is not right. That's got no space in this reality called our relationship. So when we're in this mode of just pushing our stuff onto someone else, turns out we're violating the person who allegedly we want to be connected with. And the vibration of a violation, I don't think it's what any of us actually want to represent our connection. There's much more intimate ways to do it.
So how can we step out of this? How can we stop pushing our agenda on someone? Does it just start with taking ourselves less seriously, or is there other things as well?
I think there's tremendous merit to taking ourselves less seriously, especially taking our stories less seriously. Our stories are nothing but our perception. And we used to take ourselves less seriously. The deal is when we start to get emotionally charged, we're having a disagreement, it usually means we're getting really self-identified with our stories. I've got this perception. It's my story telling me how life is, our relationship is. And when I take it too seriously, it means I identify with it. I think my story is who I am. So the reason why I start really fighting with you, even to the point where I'm psychologically violating you, is because part of me, whose sense of self is derived through this story, which is usually a BS story, if I may add, it's fighting for its life. It says the story is who I am. So if this story isn't true, it's essentially the demise of me. So I'm going to fight for my life. And even if that means essentially killing the part of you that has your story that differs from mine, then that's what I'll do. So, of course, the solution to that problem that you mentioned, take ourselves less seriously. So I highly recommend to all people, mostly myself every day, because I can't have too many reminders of it, to notice that our stories are nothing but a story. We first have to observe our stories. It's our first step of the disidentification process with our stories. Like, okay, what's my story? What's going on here for me? Okay, that's my perception. That's my story. It's important for me to have that. I'm a human being. I'm entitled. It's necessary. But I want to realize I have that. So then as I observe my story, here's where I get to give myself permission to have my story, but not be my story. It's something I have. I probably value it. I don't want to throw it away. I don't want your story to discount my story. I want to have it and represent it, but it's going to be a part of me. So now as I go from being just completely my story, bring it down here, it becomes a part of me. Now there's much more of me available to communicate with you and understand what your story is. But even though our stories in a time of conflict, our stories probably aren't going to line up. But that doesn't mean I can't acknowledge, appreciate, and value your story. When I'm identified with mine, no. Your story existing and being true means this part of me dies. So bring this part of me down, and now I'm ready to understand, okay, Steve, tell me more about what your story is. So I seek to understand, which becomes a primary way of connecting. I want to understand what your story is instead of fighting you about your story. If that makes a little bit of sense. But yeah, all stemming from not taking ourselves too seriously by recognizing our story so that we can then find the two people underneath the story.